Hello, my name's Denton Pendergast, and I'm speaking to you from Victoria, British Columbia, the south end of Vancouver Island. I'm a retired graphic designer, career graphic designer, and have had a fascination with boats since early childhood. When I moved to Victoria, I was fortunate enough to meet a couple of Victoria Harbour luminaries, I guess you'd say, Mr. John West and Mr. Martin Clark. Uh, Both of those individuals were very generous with their knowledge of the harbor, and that sparked even a deeper interest in what was going on here in my new hometown. That said, I started to explore the history of the harbor, and one thing led to another. And for my own self education primarily, I started to develop a website called victoriaharborhistory.com. And over probably about four years, I gathered some 300 stories about the harbor in a number of categories: people, events, locations, transportation, industry, and continued to fill up those categories for about 4 years. I was then diverted by other projects and have just recently got back to maintaining the website the way that it really should be maintained. I've learned a lot about the harbor, and that will be reflected in upcoming edits to the website. In the late 1960s, a reporter here in town by the name of Nesbitt came upon the idea of creating what he called the Parade of Ships. This was the first, I think, 18 plaques, bronze plaques, that are now mounted on the upper causeway wall in the inner harbor across from the Empress Hotel. As time went by, more and more plaques were added until now there are over 50 of them, each commemorating either an event, an individual, or a ship that played a big part in Victoria's history. Nesbitt himself was an amateur historian, and I must let you know that he also spearheaded the effort to rejuvenate and save Craigdarroch Castle from basically ruin, which was the course it was on. So our friend Nesbitt has been he's an unsung hero of our harbor, and the 50 plaques are each documented on Victoria Harbour History website, and the story behind each of those plaques is also available. One of the projects that I am working on occasionally is the acknowledgement of those plaques, and a way to have the thousands and tens of thousands of tourists who wander around the area of the inner harbor to have access to those stories through maybe a URL. The stories behind each of the plaques, I believe, needs to be shared with the thousands, tens of thousands of visitors that wander along our inner causeway, admiring the legislature buildings, the Empress Hotel, the steamship terminal. And yet the stories of the founding of Victoria from a maritime point of view remains invisible to all of these people. And so what I would like to do eventually is have QR code access to each of the stories on the website, available to the tourists that are fascinated and enough to spend big dollars to come here every year. This project started as a side of the desk project back when I was still a practicing graphic designer. When COVID hit, my graphic design business seemed to evaporate. I was not overly happy about that, but at the same time, it gave me an opportunity to spend more and more time with the History of the Harbor projects that I'm working on. And now they are about, I would say, half time. I write every day, or research every day, or talk to people about the history of the harbor every day. So I feel thankful that I have such a worthy subject to explore here in my retirement. I feel grateful to have such an interesting project to engage me during my retirement, as I've mentioned. And I would encourage anybody out there that has any passion, uh, whether it be historic, whether it be a personal, whatever it might be, to just roll up your sleeves and start to get into it with baby steps. I know in my own case, I'm now fully immersed in the project of telling the history of Victoria's Harbour, and find it immensely rewarding. Uh, as I work on it, I think back to my own dad, who was an archaeologist, and his own personal passion for the Iroquois First Nations along the St. Lawrence River. And so I'd like to just pay a little homage to him and wish everybody out there uh, uh, the opportunity to find something that will engage them and make our world a little better place.